I can remember back to like 1981, maybe 1980, and I always examined people before I knew how to define it. I was born in 76. And the things I understand about humanity to this point is so valuable. I see the future also. I see 800, 1,000 years into the future. I know several many things are going to take place from now until then. But one thing that we must get a grip on is something that I knew from 4 to 5 years young. And that one thing is we must be aware that the people around us and probably ourselves are programmed. And how does it play out on a day-to-day basis? Let's talk about it. My name is Leon Meredith, and I grew up in the hood. I grew up in this place in Ohio, the first projects in Cleveland, Ohio, from I think the 1930s. It was called Outhwaite and Central, these certain brick little tenements called the projects. And when I was born into these projects, I understood that gossip, that people use gossip and shame to program and train other people. You don't believe me? Look at your past. If you didn't have the new sneakers on, they ridiculed you. They didn't want you in that friend group. And maybe it was you. It was you that ridiculed others when they didn't have the quality of clothing that you had. When they didn't have a new treat. When they didn't have enough money from their parents or uncle to go to the store with you. Some of you shared. Not many, but some of you shared. And see, what it did was it isolated the people that were ridiculed. This is primarily what like the cartoon Charlie Brown was about. If you notice someone's different, point it out. We need to know the individuals that are different than common people. And although I say it plainly and flatly, and it might even go over your head, but that was the medicine, the dosage that was put into that cartoon. How to identify someone that's different because they're not a commonly programmable person. As I grew to be a teenager, I was always cast out of the in crowd. Mainly because I didn't ever feel comfortable with how we were taught to be human beings, right? How the friend group, how music was guiding us into being what was said by the group, what was said by the music. I was always my own person. And since I've been 14 years young, I thought about getting a tattoo that says authentic. Because I knew I was something different than everyone else. When I turned 14, I knew. I said, I ain't like these people. Not putting anyone down, not putting myself up. But I knew it was something different that I couldn't define. People joked on me and I didn't care because I didn't care to be in their friend groups. And all in my life up until I was 14 years young, I was poor. My hygiene was poor. Clothing, I wore the same 5 pair of jeans the whole school year. I might make it through the school year with 3.5 left. I mean, it just is what it is, or what it was. But it never made me feel lesser than. I was a power. Maybe it helped me because I was physically dominant. Like I was that dude. I was like Quentin Rampage Jackson, Kim Shamrock. These are UFC champions. I was an ox. By the time I was 14, I could whoop the average grown man. So it was, I never was ridiculed openly, but I knew my gear was lackluster. My hygiene was lackluster, and it just is what it was. So when I became an adult, I started dabbling more often in money making endeavors in the street. So I started to come up through my late teens and 20s. I was above average in the street grind. So then it was a lot of people that was coming back to try to get into my mix, mainly a lot of ladies, and I didn't hold a grudge, but it was like, let's keep it real. And it's like, to make a long story short, that kept happening during the course of my life, where people would shame me, and then I would come up, and then they would try to get with me, and I say, hold on, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. I even was forced to be married at one point, and let me say, I apologize for that. I was married, and the young lady even took the time over the course of years to badmouth me, like viciously, and even her boyfriends and stuff would let me know. They told me many details, and it was so many times that I was waiting on her to apologize, but we all know accountability when it comes to ladies. Even some of her close cousins and family members would let me know. Even recently, God let me know, like, man, that young lady got a mouth on her, and I'm telling you what God told me. Say, don't end that in your mind ever, because that person is not going to disclose to you how much they talking bad about you with the venom that they using. And it just, I knew the bad talking was what it was, but it was that God even shifted and was like, no. I know a lot of that is even lies. Most of it is lies. This is what God told me. I know the young lady is lying, my ex-wife, and I knew the talk had to be so disgusting that it turned God and all the service of God off, to mark that person off of the list. I was astounded. And then I found out that most people that know me doing similar acts. And how I found out specifically is Kevin Samuels, ironically. Kevin Samuels, he did a video a few weeks before he passed, and he was mentioning me. He was mentioning me and Dexter Jackson at the time. And I said, oh, I got smoke. So I contacted the other dude, and through a chain of command, in the man's manosphere, I got to have a conversation with him. I said, man, I'm about to blow. And when we get there, man, we got to have a boxing match and exhibition. And he just like, man, I'm just trying to, alert you, basically. Like, hey, he's like, the people of your town making it true, man. They passing it around to the whole world. They saying that, they making you be attracted to men. They say you LGBT, you like men. I don't know if it's true, but that's what's the truth gonna be. Cause what does it matter, the real, when you got this story that's publicized and drilled into people? I say, man, you right. You right. The truth don't stand a chance. And I knew, and I went back at that time to thinking about my life, to how many people over the course of my life would make up stories about me, would take little pieces of truth and just multiply it because they were upset that I didn't hang with them. They was mad that, I didn't accept their olive branch coming to me. And I never excuse me, I never hated them. It was just like, let's just keep it basic, keep it real. I'm over here, you over there. I wish you the best. And maybe that ain't the way to go, but it's the way to go to allow them to come close to you, even though you know that at this point in time they view you disgustingly. Or is it that they disgusting? Anywho, do you have any advice? I would love to hear any comments about things, because how to deal with haters, how to deal with these individuals has always been a dilemma to me. Please comment below. On these subjects, I know very little. How to be friends with, like Pac said, keep your enemies close and all that other stuff, and befriend a group of people when you know most of them is dastardly. Like, how do you guys navigate this? Please comment below. Leon Meredith, Ascension to Sovereignty.